it's tough to know whether we can comment on whether Swiatek was sort of off her game or if Sabalenka was just really on it. I'd rather give the positive credit in the direction of Sabalenka. But I think one of the major problems is that, especially in the UK at least, we have a deficit of female coaches relative to male coaches. And I think that does lead to some of the playing styles, even at the top level of female players, not necessarily playing the style that might best suit their type of tennis.
There's still always there must be that little thing in your mind where it's like, this guy is like a wall the other side of the net, and like how often does he win these finals? Welcome back to the Getting Ripped podcast. I am in an official tennis office this time, instead of being outside in the wilderness. Merlin is, of course, the other side of the world, as is going to be the norm from now on. We are both.
Yeah, that's just it now, isn't it? We're always on the other side of the world. It's not going to change.
This is life now. As long as the connection's all right, then it's like we're in the same room as each other.
This is it. As long as you don't use home Wi-Fi, then we'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, Australian Wi-Fi is generally not the best. Even though I think Australia technically invented Wi-Fi, as far as I know. They've got some of the worst Wi-Fi in the world. But hey ho, that's just how it goes.
You hear that, Australia? You need to up your game.
Anyway, what's been going on at the moment? Well, we had the conclusion of the WTA Finals with maybe a shock winner, based on what we were talking about last time. We've kind of got a bit of egg on our face in that respect. We'll go straight into that, actually. We obviously predicted that Swiatek would win the tournament, as most other people would, given that she's been like the most consistent player this year and last year as well. But she got knocked out by Sabalenka, who, to be fair, she's been there or thereabouts in a lot of tournaments this year. So it's not like it's a surprise, but it's not like someone's come out of nowhere. Again, these are the best players in the world, so it is possible. I don't know how much you saw of that match or kind of the matches that have been going on at the finals, but to me, she was just super, super aggressive. And again, as we said before, to beat Swiatek, you have to be super aggressive, but consistently still be able to get the ball in, at least for a couple of sets, as is the case in a best of three. And she managed to do that. I mean, she still won it in 3 sets, even though she played out of her skin, such as how good you have to play. I don't know, what did you make of that, and kind of how the matches have kind of progressed or unfolded?
I think this is exactly it. Beating Swiatek the way she's been playing, it took all 3 sets, and it took quite a tough grind. People might look at that scoreline and go, "Oh, well, these sets were one-sided" and stuff like that. But it's never quite that way. And the way that games play out, you can still get a scoreline that looks like 6-1 or 6-2, when really it's quite a close-fought set. Points by points, sort of juices and all that sort of stuff. And it was a big game. I think they both played a lot of good tennis. It's tough to know whether we can comment on whether Swiatek was sort of off her game or if Sabalenka was just really on it. I'd rather give the positive credit in the direction of Sabalenka, because we can't just say that Swiatek is now the goddess of all tennis. We have to accept that other players are going to reach that level from time to time, especially in matches, because that's tennis. That's why we love it. On a different day, a player can completely overturn a result that happened, say, even a week or 2 ago. But no, quite interesting. I thought the other half of the draw was quite interesting. Obviously, Garcia took the finals in the end, coming across as a clear winner in that final. Sort of tough fought sets, but I think she was quite convincing. Maybe she had that edge because she had that extra day off. You never know. Similar, sort of reminiscing of the finals the finals at Wimbledon with Kyrgios, and obviously Nadal pulled out in the semi-final. Maybe Kyrgios had a bit more of an edge. He didn't win it, obviously, but maybe that gave him that extra sort of competitive fight, knowing that he had that extra day's rest. Just interesting.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Garcia, but she likes to play the way I like to play, which is get to the net, basically, try and dictate the points and finish them out the net, which I like to see, because, again, we have this thing in modern tennis where people like to grind it out from the back. I don't know, it seems like a badge of honor to not be beaten from the back, which may be a bit of hangover from the big 3 or 4 or whatever, but yeah, I like to see. I think hopefully it will come back into the game a little bit more. We have players looking to take a little bit more risk and dictate the point and then try and finish it at the net. I know players are so good with passing shots these days, obviously with movement and getting the ball low and all that sort of thing, the angle. But again, if you pick the right ball and your approach is decent enough, then you should be able to win more points at the net than you lose, and that's kind of what you're after, really. And it's just more interesting to watch as well. Like, I don't want to see people just slugging it at the back all the time. It is interesting for a little bit, but like we need a bit of variety. We need some different styles in the game to make these matchups a bit more interesting.
Well, I still think we like those big points where we don't want to just see the same sort of cross-court forehands over and over. What you want to see is a big slug-out point that then includes some of the sort of, the trick shottery. Like everyone always goes, ooh, with something that's closer to the net, drop shots, passing shots, sort of that sort of stuff always gets the crowd way more excited. And I think the female game actually is really well suited to approaching the net a little bit more. And I'm glad we're starting to see it a little bit more sort of leaking into the tour. I think one of the major problems is that, especially in the UK at least, we have a deficit of female coaches relative to male coaches. And I think that does lead to some of the playing styles, even at the top level of female players, not necessarily playing the style that might best suit their type of tennis and best suit a way that they can take advantage of the greater scale of the women's tour. So as a result, obviously, the solution here is over the long term, we need to promote more women coaches coming onto the tour, more women coaches at grassroots levels as well. But yeah, like I say, it's nice to see that style of tennis being played, and I think it's going to come up more because that everyone's a baseline player now, because you're taught and drilled to be that person, whether you're a guy or a girl, and like I say, it's an important part of the game, but it's not the only part of the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting point actually about female coaches. Like, you just need more female role models, I guess. It's all well and good having a male coach, but ultimately you're only really going to be able to empathize so much, if I can get my words out, as a male coach with a female player. That kind of, I think if you've got a female coach with a female player, you can kind of build that relationship probably a little bit better as well. So yeah, I guess that is something we want to see a bit more of. I don't know if it's the same across the world. If you're watching from other countries apart from the UK, shock. I don't know if there what the ratio is between male and female coaches, but let us know, because it's kind of interesting to see what it's like in different countries as well. I feel like in Australia that there's quite a few female coaches, I would say, probably more than I came across in the UK from the limited kind of sample size I've had. But yeah, I don't know if it's a UK problem or it's a problem just in tennis in general. But yeah, let us know about that. So on the men's side, we've had the Paris Masters going on. It's just concluded as well. A shock win. Another young player, which actually we probably haven't mentioned that much compared to other, like Alcaraz and Sinner. Those have kind of been the main guys we've talked about. But Rune's, he's been there or thereabouts. He did get to the quarters of the French Open earlier in the year. So he has made some good runs, but no kind of major title to sort of talk about until the last few days, where he overcame Djokovic in 3 sets as well. Like, I don't know if you saw much of the match, but just like the mental resilience to come up against one of the GOATs at the age of 19 and go all the way with him and get over the line. As much as Djokovic hasn't played as much as he would like, there's still always there must be that little thing in your mind where it's like this guy is like a wall the other side of the net, and like how often does he win these finals? But Rune he's pulling out all the shots, some lovely backhand drop shots I saw again, which is quite a good ploy against Djokovic, just to try and bring him into the net, albeit he has improved his net game a lot, so he's pretty solid at the net. But just like thinking like smart in these points. I think that was probably the thing that stood out to me the most. I don't know, what did you make of it?
I think it's one of those interesting things. So with Holger Rune, I think of him as he's still a bit of a baby on the tour. Let's put it that way. And funnily enough, Stan Wawrinka actually said that to him at the end of a match that they played. It came out, what was it? Stan pretty much said to him after Rune beat him at the start of the Paris Masters, you do a lot better if you stop acting like a baby or something like that. To be honest, I do agree with that. And you get this a lot with younger players. That sort of cocky side can set in, and that nature can sow its way in a little bit, especially if they have a lot of success early on. But in terms of his win over Djokovic, yeah, it's obviously very impressive. I think younger players are the only ones that are going to stand a chance of really beating Djokovic when he's playing that wall side of his game, when he's able to reach that level, because you have to have a certain amount of athleticism and sort of endurance to keep up with it and stay attacking with it. And I think that maybe that baby mindset, maybe that younger, slightly cocky, which is not a bad thing, but having that cocky mindset allows you to think, oh, I'm not down and out now. I'm just going to win it now. It's taken me a few extra shots, but no problem. That I think has served him well, especially in that match. Tough to comment. I don't know his mind, but that's how it appears.
Yeah, I think Djokovic also made some uncharacteristic errors in some points. Maybe that was because of lack of tournaments, but maybe also because Rune got into his head a little bit. Even though Djokovic is one of the GOATs, I think you can get into his head more than you could with a Federer or a Nadal, or at least where it's displayed outwardly that you've got under their skin. Again, but he normally finds a way to deal with that, and he kind of like thrives on that. But you can wind him up a little bit, and he can go off his game a little bit. So credit to Rune in that respect. And again, just for hanging in there. It's again, I don't expect him to start winning loads of tournaments. You get even with when we talked about Alcaraz before, he won the US Open, but it's not like he's gonna make the semis or finals of every Grand Slam now and start winning loads of tournaments. It's still early days, and these kind of big players are still kicking about a little bit, albeit they're towards the end of their career. So but again, it's a great confidence booster for him. I know he's got Moratoglu in his corner, so that kind of relationship seems to be paying off a little bit. I mean, one of the better coaches I think you could have in your corner, so that he's in good hands there. Just the more younger players we can see, the better. Really, around we've got Alcaraz, Sinner, Rune, Musetti. If he can kind of find some consistency, there's a few guys there. So some rivalries that could develop as we go forward.
Again, we're looking for this thing that we've had, in abundance for the last sort of 2 decades. Whether we find that or not is a different thing. But yeah, you're right. I think it's quite nice to see that these players are coming up and reaching that level. And the question really is, we know they can be at that level, but can they maintain it? So we asked these questions of Dominic Thiem, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Grigor Dimitrov. We've asked these questions over the years. Oh, yeah, they're there. A couple of years and they'll be the new Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, blah, blah, blah. But they never manage that consistency. And that's the great challenge to the Alcarazes, the Runes, the Musettis, and the Sinners of the world is, can you maintain that consistency? And dare I say it, when Murray becomes a coach, I am sure that whoever he has is going to have that consistency, because that's what he would bring to them. Yeah, give someone with talent to him. That's what he'll bring out.
Because he had no talent. No, he did that. Of course, he got to have a certain level of talent.
He had less talent than a lot of other people, and he did excessively well with that lack. Well, not lack, but.
And that's a good thing to have on your side as a coach as well, or a mentor, is that someone like Murray, you come along and it's like, well, mate, look where I got to with less talent than you've got for X player. So that, again, I'd be interested to know what the intensity of and what the training is like for some of these younger, more inconsistent players, because what is it that sets apart these, the greatest 3 or 4 players that we've ever had to these other guys who have got the ability, it seems, but can't find the consistency? Is their life a bit too easy once they get a load of money from sponsorship and from prize money? Are they being pushed in training? How hard are they trying to improve each week? It's kind of, I don't know what it's that, those little 1%ers, isn't it, often when you're at the very top?
I do think it is life decisions. I think we've had recent news, obviously, like Benoit Paire on the tour saying that he was going to give up alcohol, and you're just like, wait, hang on, you've been drinking alcohol and partying too much. Like, of course you're not winning. Like, you're not going to win if you're doing that because you're putting your body through a lot of things. But then you also think, Christ, he's done well considering he's been drinking as well. It's one of those things where Andy Murray went teetotal. He put himself through an excessive fitness regime, something that training too hard broke his hip. Underlying problems and all, but he probably could have lasted a couple extra years if he hadn't overtrained and stuff like that. Maybe. It's all these things. So maybe those are the differences. Yeah, as you say, maybe they get a little too comfortable some of the time. Some of them might not have the ambition. Some of them might just be talented tennis players, but they're not thinking, oh, I want to be the greatest. Oh, I want to win a Grand Slam and all of that sort of thing. It's just to them that, okay, this is work, and then now I'll go and have fun and stuff like that. And it's just like that in any industry as well. Yeah, interesting. Although I will say one thing, I don't think it's about how much work you put in. I think, the sort of Murray ethos goes a little too far a lot of the times. Good to have it, but not good to, be Andy Murray, let's put it that way. I would say that actually a footballer put it the best recently in an interview for City, and it was Erling Haaland, and he said that it's not about how hard you work, it's about identifying the things that will actually help you. It was basically work smart, not hard, and I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, and often when you get to that top level, it actually almost becomes the opposite of what you might teach when you're younger, which is actually play to your strengths rather than trying to lift up the weaknesses. Once you get to that certain level, you just got to enhance your strengths really more than anything else. Sure, you've got to have like baseline level for all your shots and stuff, but you hone a style that suits your game.
It's making sure there's not too much of a weakness, like an obvious sore point. As you say, like capitalize on that strength, use it to your advantage, and you can come away with some wins. Yeah,
you see that more with this style of points as well, where it seems to me like more players, for example, run around their forehands than used to happen. I don't know. Yeah. That's something that I've noticed. Anyway, that's just an example of it. But train smart, not hard. But obviously, you do still need to put in a minimum level of effort. And the effort, a lot of the effort goes into designing something that's a smart kind of training program. Like the mental effort that requires to, identify those things. So, it's quite interesting. Yeah, I guess some people are just happy with, like you said, where they're at and the lifestyle and all that stuff. But I think that's where the rivalries can come in. And like with Federer kind of rested on his laurels a little bit, and then Nadal came in, pushed him a bit further. Nadal was on top, and then Djokovic came and kind of pushed him on, and then Federer came back again. I think that's where the rivalries can kind of push it.
Well, they all helped each other for sure. They all helped each other push each other for sure. Yeah.
There you go. All right, that wraps it up for this week's episode. Let us know your thoughts on the Paris Masters and the WTA Finals, and also kind of what you're looking forward to with the end of year finals on the men's side. And if you have liked this podcast, give it a follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And on YouTube, like it, share it around, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.